Greetings, fellow painters! Today we're looking at a simple skin recipe that I use to paint all levels of skin pigmentation. I use the same three colors mixed in the exact same ratios to paint skin ranging anywhere from very light to very dark. Now, this is not to say that I can produce every single skin tone with these three colors, but it is a simple recipe for producing skin of any level of melanin. Let's get started by using this recipe to create a dark skin tone on this human berserker. Welcome to Trehane Miniatures. This simple recipe consists of just three colors: a very dark brown, a dark orange, and a very light yellow. My preferred colors for this are German Camo Black Brown, Orange Brown, and Ice Yellow, all by Vallejo. I'm going to create 5 paint layers with these colors. 3 of those layers consist of each color on its own. Additionally, I'll create a layer color that is a 50-50 mix of black brown with the orange brown, and I'll mix up a 50-50 blend of the orange brown and ice yellow. Normally, I would refer to the dark mix of black brown and orange brown as a secondary shadow color, and I would refer to the light mix of orange brown and ice yellow as an initial highlight color. However, these colors will have a different application on each model depending on how dark I want the skin to be. For example, for very dark skin, the black brown and orange brown mix may serve as the mid-tone color, covering more surface area of each muscle than any other color layer. Whereas for very light skin, the light mix of orange brown and ice yellow may make up the mid-tone color. With this recipe, the only difference in application of paints depends on which layer you use as your mid-tone color and then highlight that appropriately, meaning that the overall appearance of the flesh looks this color with natural looking highlights and shadows. This usually means that more of the belly of each muscle will be the mid-tone color than any other color. Regardless of the final skin color that I'm working towards, I always start with a miniature primed in black. For today's miniature, I'm going for a dark overall skin tone. As stated earlier, I'll work in layers to achieve my desired look. There is no trick to applying the first layer of dark shadow color. This gets applied uniformly over all of the exposed skin on the model. The paint is thinned with water and applied in 2 passes. The paint is thinned just enough so that it flows off the brush nicely and self-levels, meaning that it doesn't leave raised brush strokes. It shouldn't be so thin that it runs freely into the recesses though. This level of thinning will leave the paint somewhat translucent, so some of the black primer will affect how dark the paint looks once it dries. Therefore, we can take advantage of this by not painting into the deepest recesses with our second layer of black brown. This will create the darkest shadows in the recesses and will gradually get lighter as we move away from here. The second layer of paint consists of a 50-50 mix of German Camo Black Brown and Orange Brown, and is thinned exactly as described earlier. This mix is our mid-tone color for the dark skin and not a secondary shadow color. This means that we will not go as deep into the shadow area with this color as we would if this was a secondary shadow layer. The black-brown shadow layer will be more visible in this paint scheme than if we were painting a lighter skin tone. Most of the visible surface area of the skin will read as this mid-tone color. I'm layering the paint on smoothly and drawing my strokes from the shadow area to the top of each muscle. Pure orange brown will be our first highlight for this piece. It will be thin to a layer consistency as usual. Since the orange brown is my first highlight color, I need to place the paint very deliberately. Once I get to the point in the layering process where I'm applying highlights, I try to stop drawing long, smooth brush strokes and start to apply the paint with a couple of techniques that add to the effect that light is bouncing off of the skin. Initially, I like to use short brush strokes that run across the short length of the muscle belly instead of drawing long strokes along the length of the muscle. As the highlights get brighter, I'll switch to using some light stippling to increase this effect. Eventually, I'll resort to just dotting in a few very bright highlights on the key focal points of the piece. This first highlight of orange brown will hit every protrusion and upward facing area on the model, including hands, feet, knee, and thigh. I still have 2 more brighter levels of highlight to add, so I have to be careful not to make the overall skin tone look too light. Next, we continue our highlighting with a mix of orange brown and ice yellow. My mixes are almost always 50-50 mixes. It's just easier to maintain consistency that way. I'm starting to focus my highlights just around the torso and head now. I think that this berserker's knuckles will receive a little highlight as well. I will continue to place these highlights just at the very high points of each muscle where it meets the shadow area of the muscle above it. I like to highlight the topmost portion of each muscle and not necessarily the point of the muscle that sticks out the farthest. I have found through trial and error that highlighting the central part of each muscle just because it's the part that sticks out the most results in an odd bullseye appearance for the highlights, kind of like looking at the rings of a topographical map. It's an easy trap to fall into without even realizing it until the painting is nearly finished. Luckily, I had a pretty short learning curve for this after ending up with a few wonky looking models. The final highlight is solely ice yellow, and this will just be applied to the face and head. I'm particularly looking to highlight the very top of the right side of the Berserker's forehead and some glistening highlights on the lips. I'm also going to use ice yellow as the final glint of light in his eyes. Now that this guy's skin is all wrapped up, I'll point out that there are basically 3 levels of skin pigmentation that I use this recipe for. Dark skin, like on this Berserker here, where I use a mix of dark brown and dark orange as the mid-tone color. In my layering video, I went for a medium skin tone on the male barbarian that I painted. For that miniature, I used orange-brown as the mid-tone color. In a future video, I'll look at painting a monster character with a lighter skin tone where I use a mix of orange-brown and ice yellow to achieve the desired mid-tone color. For something a little more eye-catching, you can check out the female barbarian that I painted with less conventional skin tone paints. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to join our growing community of painters.